All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to episode 6 of Veeam Product Strategy Live. It's been a little bit of time since our last episode. I think it's been about 3 or 4 weeks. I think we took a little bit of a break, but for very good reason. Everyone's been very, very, very busy. Some more than others, but overall, the whole product strategy team and a lot of people in Veeam have been busy because next week, Veeam on 2020 Live is happening. So this episode we're going to dedicate initially to talk a little bit about that. We're going to have a chat and sort of find out from everyone what's happening, what our expectations are, because it's going to be a very different event to what we're used to. I've got my usuals. I've got Michael, Melissa, and David. Hello, how is everybody this week?
Doing good.
Excellent. Yeah, David looks fresh. Yeah, Michael's had a haircut.
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can get through episode 6 without any incidents with the kids.
Yeah.
It'll be the first one.
He's shut them in some sort of closet today. He's made sure of it, but it's all good.
Duct tape.
Nice. So look, I think what we wanted to do, just have a bit of a chat about Veeam on 2020. Like, it's crazy to think that when we started doing these, potentially we still had an inkling of hope that we could have actually attended Veeam on 2020 in Miami. And that was, when was that, the first week of May?
Vegas.
Yeah, it could be in Vegas, mate.
Oh, no, Vegas. Holy moly. Vegas, yeah, who could forget?
Yeah,
Miami was a good time as well, but we're past that now. But it was in Vegas. I was really looking forward to getting out there because I hadn't been to Vegas for, for all of last year, which was the first time in about 6 years. So I was really looking forward to it, but alas, things came into play and we couldn't get there. So, we kind of all, I think, relaxed a little bit as a group, wondering what was going to happen with that event. And then very quickly, as happened in a lot of vendors' events, it got switched into a live event that's happening next week. So maybe, Michael, do you just want to kick off and maybe just have a chat about, what's going to be different about it this time around?
Well, apart from the obvious, is that there's not going to be any like interaction, no networking in person, no gambling in casinos in Vegas. But no, the online experience, and I think we'll get to that as well because we've all been on different online events as well. So we're just hoping that we deliver the best event that we can, given the constraints of what's happening. I think some of us have been involved. Well, we've all been involved in sessions at least. I think they're very different to be able to record them and go through them without the interaction. I mean, all of us here, we love getting feedback from whoever's out there in our session and hearing their thoughts and their questions. So that's going to be a little bit different, is that, okay, you can wait for people to type it, but it's just going to be a little bit different that we're going to have to accept for this time around. And then the things like the general sessions, the tech sessions, hearing what's coming around the corner, all of that. Hopefully we can put a good show on for the masses that come in.
Yeah, I think you gave away a little bit of an element to it, right? I mean, people understand that these things are never live, right? It just can't happen that way. It's just not functionally possible, right? So there's an element that we pre-record. There's an element that we're there live. We're doing live Q&As. We're doing live AMAs as well. So there is a lot of live element to it. There's a Veeam-a-thon as well, which is going to be live in a sense as well. So that's part of the challenge, making it seem authentic and not losing the feel of it, because a Veeam On is a really exciting event with lots of energy. I mean, Melissa, was your first one last year from memory, or was it the year before? I can't remember with you because you obviously had your child, didn't you? That's right. You were in Chicago.
Last year I had the baby, so I wasn't at Veeam On. I was in Chicago, yeah.
Yeah, and that was a different one in itself. That was a stranger one that for us, we felt didn't hit the typical Veeam On mark, but we came back really strongly in Miami. But David, what's your take on an event like this for Veeam? You have been to a few events now as a Veeam employee. You've done a couple of Veeam Ons. So what's your expectation for next week?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not convinced that virtual is what we want to do long term, but I think in the situation we're in, when you think about getting the content out there, letting people understand what's going on, I think it's very valuable. I think from a Veeam perspective, the sessions we've got are going to be great. Like Michael was saying, the tech sessions. I'm doing one on Kubernetes. I'm doing some on the cloud stuff with Dustin. So the content's there, and I think it's going to be great. The thing for me that you can't ever replace is like what Michael said right at the beginning: the social interaction and networking. You know, it's my favorite thing about going to conferences, whether it's you're going to VMworld and you're seeing old colleagues you worked with, or you're going to KubeCon, you're meeting new people, you know, Veeam. For us, we get to spend time with all the Vanguards. That is irreplaceable from a physical event. But I think the online version with, as you said, the Q&A, the Ask Me Anythings, the fact that we are live, we're present, we're able to respond and answer people's questions, and then do some kind of social networking afterwards, whether it's on LinkedIn or whatever, is still very valuable. And I think the attendees will still get a lot out of it. They just won't get that personal, oh, look, there's Anthony, and he's got lots of hair now, let's go shake his hand. So it's kind of that kind of aspect to it is just, you can't ever replace that.
Yeah, that's awesome from you there, David. Thank you very much. Just, isolation's done wonders. What can I say? Anyway, moving on. So, Melissa, now that my train of thought has been completely broken, what are you looking forward to next week? And tell us a little bit about your session. What we'll do is we'll go around and, David's obviously talked about a couple of his sessions on Kubernetes and talking about AWS backup. Melissa, what are you doing? I mean, I know we can't say everything because for Michael and Melissa, they've got a really special tech session which is coming, which is going to be showcasing V11 for us, which is really exciting, and also some future-looking features of our other platform products. So, that's all to the side. We don't really want to give that away, but from a session point of view, Melissa, what's coming up for you?
Yeah, we're safe. Yeah, so there's a lot of interesting things. Doing a session on cloud economics, so talking a little bit about, hey, if you're beginning your journey to cloud, or you're in there, right? Let's talk about some of the things that you should be thinking about to kind of reduce your costs, or not even reduce your costs, right? Get a handle on your costs so you can make those great business decisions on, yes, this workload is going to this cloud, now it's going to that cloud. Hey, let's use Veeam backup for Amazon or Azure to back it up more frequently, less frequently, blah, 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 all that good stuff. So that's fun. And then I have another session on one of my favorite products. Not that they're all not my favorite, but Veeam 1. So Kirsten from our team and I did a really great session on Veeam 1 with we're going to have some demos in it too. So that's always nice. And besides all those kind of live sessions next week, I know there's also going to be a library of on-demand stuff, like after the fact. So there's a couple really good ones in there. One I did with two guys from R&D who are brilliant is all about a deep dive on VAO and setting up your recovery locations the right way. So we just have like this huge varied amount of content, all different formats that we talked about. It'll all be there after the fact as well. And one thing that I actually like about the online events versus the in-person ones is they're much more attainable for a lot of people. So if you look at, I don't remember what the registration numbers are off the top of my head, but I know they're a lot higher than they ever would have been for an in-person event.
Yeah.
Kind of like the silver lining of all this stuff. All these companies bring their events online for free. As a technologist, right, you can go learn about all these great new technologies, go to all these conferences that you would have never been able to go to in person, right? So it's just kind of great for everyone. So I definitely like that style. Last year we did our Veeam on virtual towards the end of the year. That was a huge success. So I actually kind of like the virtual events. I'm kind of weird like that, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we're allowed to divulge the numbers actually, but I know that it's obviously it's in the tens of thousands, right? Like it's not like a normal event where we get, I think we got 2.5, maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit last year, but total, about 2,500, 2,000. So pretty good for a company like Veeam, but definitely online allows you to reach more people. Obviously the challenge is to keep people's attention, especially when it's over a couple of days like this. And the format's quite interesting. So
yeah, but here's the good thing, right?
Right.
We already have the schedule online. So, right, you as the consumer of Veeam can go look and be like, hey, you know what? I have a really busy day, but I have an hour here and there. So let me just hop onto a session here or a live here, watch the general sessions. So it's definitely consumable in different ways too, versus if you were at traditionally an in-person event, right?
Yeah,
So,
and I was going to say that we've got the agenda online. So veeam.com, the agenda's up there. You can register for that. Still time. And then the great thing, what we're doing is we're sort of staggering it around the world. It's a follow the sun situation. So I think it kicks off in EMEA, then bleeds into North America, and then it finishes the next day in APJ and kind of circles around. So there's plenty of opportunity across the whole globe to go and actually get certain chunks of it at different times as well. So you don't even have to be locally in the EMEA event specifically. You can even jump to the APJ event or to the North American event and get the information there. So that's kind of unique in itself. David?
Yeah, I think like Melissa touched on a good point there. You can pick and choose what you want to see. Whereas when you go to a conference, you know, whether you're going paying for it yourself, your employer's sending you, or you're going as an employee, you have this set number of days you're at an event, and you have to jam pack your schedule to fit everything in that you want to see, and you're always running around. Sometimes you just feel like, I don't want to go to this next session. So you skip it, and then later on you think, I really wish I'd gone to that one now. And you try and fit as much as you can in. With the online event, the great thing is, like you said, we've got the different time zones. There's no overlap. You can pick and choose. It's a bit like when you watch cricket. You know, you start to watch cricket for half an hour, you get bored, you go off, you go make some dinner, you go have some beers, you come back, the cricket's still on. You can do the same thing with Veeam on virtual. You know, you can pick and choose when and what you want to watch and stuff like that. So that is the really good aspect to it. So you're not just sat in front of your computer screen all day for like 8-9 hours getting bored. You can just pick and choose when you want to watch them.
It's an interesting analogy with cricket. I mean, I love cricket, but yeah, it's an interesting analogy. I'd be watching cricket all day. That's just me. I love it.
But you can get up and go make some food. It's great.
Oh yeah, you can come back. That's right, and you can pause it as well these days with live TV and whatnot. Michael, what about your sessions? What have you got?
So I've lucked out, I think, because I only have one breakout session, and that's on NAS Backup. That's been my thing since V10, and obviously the run up to V10. So me and Dima, who's the PM for NAS and pretty much everything else in Veeam Backup and Replication. Me and him have got a joint session where we go into a little bit more detail, like deep dive into NAS and the components that you have within that. So that's one session. Then lots of everything else, like you already mentioned about the tech general session without giving too much away. That's by far been the bulk of the workload over the last couple of weeks. But yeah, that should be interesting.
Yeah, cool.
We won't give any more away from it.
No, we won't give more away there. You got to watch. And then for myself, I've got 2 sessions specifically, and then I've got an AMA. I've got a session on the clouds here in V10. It's a deep dive with Dustin as well. Dustin's actually dominating the sessions. I think he's got 3 or 4, doing really well there. So I meet with Dustin for that one, and then I'm doing one. I've got to represent for the VCSPs, the cloud community. I'm doing one with Stephanie Dion, which is going to be talking about the fact that the VCSP program now is 10 years old. Happy birthday to it. And I'm going to be looking at the console as well. So that's a pretty cool one that I think a lot of our service providers will be interested in. And then I'm doing an AMA, again, on disaster recovery and backup as a service with our CTO, Danny Allen, and Leah Treskunecki, which the surname's easier to say than it is to definitely spell when you see it. So that's going to be an AMA. That's an interesting one. AMAs are basically 3 slides, a little bit of intro, and then basically the audience is then going to, ask questions, and hopefully we'll get some level of interaction. So, yeah, that's going to be quite interesting, I think. So we're all looking forward to it. I do believe it's going to be a different event. It's going to hit a few marks. We're going to be interested to see how many people we get in the day. But overall, it's hard to say that we're as excited as what a real event is, because I think we'd all agree that we'd probably be lying about that. We'd rather be in Vegas, getting ready to behave the night before and not do anything silly, so we can have a good shot at main stage and whatever, and then having the party and the Veeam off afterwards. I don't know how Veeam off is going to be this year. It'd be a bit weird, but I've got a bar, so yeah, at least I can do that. All right, so now that we've talked about Veeam on, I wanted to pivot the conversation and talk about virtual events in general. So there's been a lot that's been run, even over the past, I want to say, couple of weeks. I've seen quite a few. I believe Pure Accelerate was today, from what I saw. I saw a friend of mine, Craig Waters, talk about that today. I think Zerto had their event. Cisco Live was delayed. I think it's next week, actually. I think we're going up against Cisco Live, which makes it quite interesting now.
Yeah, we've got some sessions at Cisco Live as well. I did some.
Yeah, there you go.
Clearly, it's very live.
Clearly live. But the one thing that I've been seeing over the past now, well, how long have we been at this? Since February, 4 months, probably the last 2 months, there's been a bit of a burnout when it comes to online events and just general meetings online and, like the Zoom burnout. What's some of our film? Melissa, maybe I'll ask you first. What's your take on the virtual conference? I know you said that you like it, but do you like it?
I don't know
small
bad to say about them. I kind of like the choose your own adventure model, right? So, okay, I'm going to sign up for Veeam on, and Melissa's awesome. So I'm just going to go to Melissa's sessions or something like that, right? The ability to pick and choose what you want to go to the day of live. But the other component is all these conferences have it online for free afterwards, right? So you can kind of go on demand in most cases and say, well, darn, I didn't get time to go to that Veeam on session I wanted. Let me go watch it next week or something like that. So I think it's just really great for general accessibility of content, right? Sometimes conferences in the past haven't been able to record all their sessions for whatever reason. I know Veeam on Chicago, we only recorded a couple of the sessions. We didn't record everything, right? So
yeah,
with the technology of streaming an event, that makes it really easy to you have the data, right? So you're streaming it, record it, put it online later. And it's all about, sharing knowledge and accessibility of knowledge and data. And not going to hear anything bad out of it from me.
That's
people get burned out. People get burned out on live conferences too.
Yeah.
Right? Conference season comes and people who are going every week, by the end of it, they're just done. So it's the same thing in person or virtual. It's a matter of
maybe we need to get virtual lanyards. I've seen Michael's collection there. I've got my collection in the back there. My lanyard.
Mine's all the way in the back.
Yeah, so my lanyard. I'm not sure if David collects his, but it's at least 3 out of the 4 collect. The lanyards were weird like that.
I used to, but then I moved and I couldn't be bothered putting them on a ship from the UK to the US.
It's going to cost you too much money. Had too many.
Had to prioritize.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think the reason why I bring it up is because I kind of believe that I think I tweeted this today. I don't believe that the delivery mechanisms for these online events has been challenged over the past, even I want to say 10, maybe 15 years. If I think about how I used to consume online events back a decade ago, it's that, that really daggy sort of intro where you see the virtual lobby and you go here, you go there, and it hasn't changed. And that's an interesting thing that we've got 10 years on and we haven't seemed to improve the delivery mechanism or the experience. And I think that's more the conversation to be had. And I think I tweeted today, it's right. It's right for the taking, right? If someone can build a better ship or, can build a better platform, I think they're going to dominate and actually disrupt that market. I'm not smart enough to do it.
Of online conferences, right? Basically, the disruptor to come in and make it easier to use and more interactive and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Maybe Zoom should
need like Facebook rooms for virtual reality headsets.
VR. VR is not too crazy. VR. I think even so, VR in itself has taken a long time to get into mainstream, right? Even up until this very year, there was no really good VR type games. And the VR headsets had problem. If they're tethered, then you need to deal with a tether. If they're not tethered, then they're a big, heavy unit because the processing is inside them, right? There's challenges there. However, they're getting better. They're putting smaller processors and lighter units into the head, so it's getting better. But then the tech is getting better. I'm not sure if you guys have seen the new Half-Life. I'm not sure if I've shared it with you guys, but Half-Life finally released something new. I always joke, I've got a Half-Life icon on my desktop. For those that have seen my desktop in my presentations, I always joke with people because I have Half-Life 3 as an icon, and people kind of go, what, Half-Life 3? It's out? I'm like, no, it's not out. So I've kind of got a lot of people with that. But Valve released a fully immersive VR experience, which for all intents and purposes has just set the new standard in terms of VR. So when we talk about VR as a technology for virtual conferences, I think it's actually quite plausible that it could be something that we use later on. But then again, what do we lose?
I'm virtual Melissa with a good 6 inches taller.
What? Say that again, Melissa. You just broke up.
Can I make virtual Melissa like a good 6 inches taller than I am? Because that would be really helpful.
Yeah, you won't need that.
We can graphically stretch you.
It would be helpful. Thank you.
So, yeah.
But what do we think? So David, what do you think it needs? What do you think this industry needs?
The problem is, for me, if you look at what's going on in the world, everyone goes on about climate change and everything else like that, and the fact that this virus has brought down carbon emissions. Now, I'm not known for my tree hugging, but when you think about how we've seen such a drop in the carbon emissions, and the fact that we've moved to this virtual conference kind of aspect of it, I don't know if it's going to come back to how it was. Certainly not. I can't imagine 2021 there's going to be like 50 conferences. We're all flying to Vegas every other week. So, as you said, it is ripe for the taking. And I think as virtual reality progresses, if you can get to the point where you can actually socially interact with people, then it's going to become the de facto norm for these kind of events. Because if you can put a headset on, and then I can stand in front of you and pretty much talk to you the way that I do when I'm at a real event, then I don't need to go and burn all these carbon emissions to come fly into Vegas to shake your hand. Yeah. So and there's less chance of me getting infected with diseases. Because Melissa hates traveling.
I have no desire. I hate traveling. Yeah, I have issues. But I have no desire to go get a headset and pretend I'm in some virtual reality conference world. I don't know. It just seems kind of weird and creepy to me. Like,
but is that your perception of the way that you think VR is now, with all that sort of blocky, sort of the old school VR, or if it was a more realistic experience?
I know better now. I still have no desire to put on the goggles and like pretend I'm someplace. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Like I like video games and everything. But...
Yeah, I don't disagree. It's not an ideal situation, but if you're at the point where travel isn't what it once was, how else do you interact is kind of what I'm thinking. Now, ideally, we'll all just turn our offices into Star Trek holodecks, and then it'll be like real, and I can hug everyone and get myself into just as much trouble. But in the reality is, with the technology, if companies start issuing restrictions on travel and we're not able to fly as much, whether it's down to carbon emissions or it's down to the fact that suddenly companies have just realized how much they actually spend on airfare now that they're not spending it, and they restrict things will have to change. And the online presence we have now, I don't think is enough to replace physical conferences. So then how do we do it is kind of the way I'm looking at it.
Kind of middle ground between the two, though?
I do, yeah. I think
like just a better online experience, versus the VR.
But the online experience isn't bad from a content kind of intake perspective. That's completely the wrong way to say it. But learning from the content, the online experience isn't much different to sitting in a session and listening to people on stage. What you're missing is that whole social.
Social.
Yeah, it's going to the booths and Just you walk past the booth and you see
Why can't we
someone
just go
doing
back
a demo.
to 90s chat room?
Oh, you've just made me think of a really important and interesting conversation around that, which is a different conversation at the same time. But where did we first meet, David? We first met at VMworld, Moscone.
We did,
we interacted there. Melissa, I saw you around. I was stalking you a little bit. I saw you in Vegas, I think. And I mean, Michael and I knew each other before. But the point is, if I didn't go to VMworld 2012, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen to this generation now where we're lucky because we've been able to use these events as stepping stones for our own careers? What's going to happen to the kids or the people that are just where we were back before we were able to leverage what it is to go and be social at these events? Are they going to miss out? Is their opportunity going to become less? I actually kind of think yes. Now, I don't know how to manifest that, but Michael, what do you reckon?
Yeah, so if you go back to 2012 though, Anthony, and you went to one conference that year, right? You'd always point and go, right, I need to go to VMworld. That's what's big at the moment. And now, if you look at the event landscape, like for anything, there's hundreds of events. Like every storage vendor has got one. Every backup vendor's got one. There's no consolidation of that, and that's where I think we probably need to go. Is there won't be that extreme that David mentioned.
There's an event for everything, right? It's like I like to eat chocolate chips con. I don't know. It's just everything has its own event now, and it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's almost event fatigue as a whole.
So to
be fair, I'd go to the chocolate chips one. I would say I'd be up for that.
So
what about hand sanitizer? Con 2020.
Lysol are going to have a conference next year. How to protect yourself with hand sanitizer.
Yeah, but I do really think that even if we do reduce, say if it does kind of contract and say it does reduce, which I expect it will, and then the major vendors will still probably have the cash and the spend to be able to throw an event, or maybe it's more like, okay, now here's a backup industry event, which a number of vendors go to instead of just one throwing. I mean, I know that's a bit farcical because I don't think we can be friends at that point, but you know what I mean? Maybe the consolidation happens at that point. But I really am concerned about where the next generation is going to get their break from.
Not even that. What concerns me the most is how, if you're not actually leaving your home and you do everything virtually, how do you learn to have physical interactions with people? If you think back to when you were starting out in your career and you were 18, 19, you go to an interview and it would be the most scariest thing you've ever done. You'd start a new job. The first day was horrendous because you didn't want to appear like a fool. You didn't want to say the wrong thing. Whereas now in my mid-40s, I don't get overly nervous about interviews. I don't get overly nervous about starting new jobs or new roles. And I certainly don't get nervous about meeting new people. But that's skills I've learned. If it's all online, you're not going to learn those skills. So then when it's not just about work, it's about life in general.
However, maybe us as the older generation,
flying around. I'm going to be like Mr. Miyagi here.
I was taking a walk the other day, and I overheard. There must have been a couple of kids in their early 20s, and they were talking about streams and I'd never subscribed to that guy's channel. I'd never look at his stream. It's such a boring stream, and they just talk fundamentally different to what we were talking about back when we were that age, right? So I guess what could happen is that these new people that are coming up, their platform isn't so much the social conference. They already have a platform, which is actually where we're streaming from today. We're leveraging it, right? Socially going out on Twitter. The YouTube people, the YouTube generation, and the Instagram and the TikToks, this is potentially where those people have to build their brand now. Which we're kind of still doing.
But
I just don't think you can replace people.
But they're doing it today.
No, you can't, because how many people persona or personality for the Instagram follows, for the YouTube views, and that's not really who they are, right? It's this whole fake created thing, this personality they create and market. It's not their authentic self, right?
It's the ultimate fake it till you make it.
So there's that whole issue too.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I reckon,
love me or hate me, I am who I am. You know, and it's the same with us. We're kind of that there is no, we present on stage, and like me and you are quite well known for it now, Spiteri. We tend to have a bit of a laugh and take the Michael out of each other while we're on stage. You once made fun of my poor back when I'd hurt it, and you know, but if you're doing that on Twitter, you never, or YouTube or whatever, how much of it is fake? How much is, like, my son watches these not Grand Theft Auto, Roblox videos of these guys videoing themselves playing a game, and he loves them. They are so fake, and it drives me mad. But he's like, these guys are awesome, Daddy, and then he tries to replicate them. But you know they're not leaving their house and behaving like that. So, like Melissa said, I find that quite concerning. When things become fake, and there doesn't seem to be any truth in the world anymore.
There's a sense of what's the word? Like, I remember VMworld 2018, and I was there with a group of Aussies, and there was a younger kid who hadn't really experienced what happens at conferences, right? After the parties and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, for him, it was like this was his rite of passage. This was his initiation in terms of, this is what we do now. Okay, we've had the party, we're out, we're having a good time. Now this is where the real socialization happens. This is where you and I become good mates. I'm going to buy you a drink now. And he goes, oh, I can't accept the drink. And I'm like, no, you can accept the drink. He'll know who he is if he's listening. He's probably not listening, but he'll know who he is. However, the point is, that's how you become that person, David. It's through those experiences. I went to my first Microsoft Tech Ed conference in Queensland when I was 26, and I was like what I would deem like a lone wolf, going around, you know, hunchback, like not interacting with people. And now I'm completely opposite to that person, for those that know me when I'm at these events.
So with that then, it's like, but roll back before like VMware or VMworld, and before those other major conferences, like I can't even remember the ones from Halt and Catch Fire that they used to go to in that. Right. But before that, what did people do? Because it wasn't as accessible to jump on a plane and be in. But I'm talking like a long time ago here. But what happened there? Because there was still those.
They were very regional, though, weren't they? I think.
Yeah, possibly like that. But like, it's not like this is the first wave of change for that as well. But I just think that there's got to be questions asked about how and what does the event landscape from it, and this is just our industry, right? This is going to be the same conversation across the
every
world.
Industry does it.
Yeah.
Every industry does it.
And it's going to be, well, do we just carry on and do all of those storage vendors roll out again next year and have the event, and we do and everyone else do, and just continue like 2020 never happened? That would be amazing. I'd love for 2020 never to have happened by the sounds of it. But what I'm interested, or does a platform be created and innovated against to make life better from a online experience point of view, or is there a match of both? I think it'll be interesting to see what happens in this space, and whether there is innovation or whether they just revert back to normal as it were, or is there a new blended way of being able to consume this content? Because like you say, we keep calling them the new guys that come up and they consume their video, they consume streams, etc. online. Like, is that the new way that as the older generation, are we going to have to be forced back into that way of thinking as well? So we think that, like David, you say about that face-to-face, and I completely agree, is that all of us have had that like social interaction in person, and I think it's important to, like, it'll be interesting rather to understand what happens with this.
Yeah. No, I think it's a good conversation. I think, like we said, I think if we track it back to how virtual conferences are done today, I do believe that the company that is the Zoom of the virtual conference world will make money, and I hope that I pick up on them early and I can invest some money in them somewhere, and that we can have happy days. But I think from that point of view, let's start to wrap it up. Let's circle back on Veeam. Just some final thoughts there for next week. Again, it's 17 and 18. It starts at, here we go, same online experience. We're prepared. Same online experience. I was right, 17 to 18. It's like I pressed a button. Look, register today, Veeam. We can go to veeam.com/Veeam or veeam.com. I think it's going to be great. I think I'm really excited mostly about what we're going to talk about in the general tech session, as always. What's coming in the V11, what's coming in the product set. I think that's why you listen, because we're only just starting in terms of our innovation and what we're bringing into this industry. So with that, thank you, Michael. Thank you, David. Thank you, Melissa. And thank you for those that listen, and thank you for those that are going to listen to the recording. We will see you next time. Cheers.